Hi, I'm Crystal, and this is my AFT story. So, when I first heard about AFT or the Aroma Freedom Technique, I was very new into essential oils, and I was a part of an online Facebook community. And someone in there was a practitioner of this thing called Aroma Freedom Technique. And they were offering a free group session. And so free stuck out at me because at the time we were in a really bad spot financially. So if if it was anything that was charged I had to pay for, I wouldn't have experienced it. So I signed up for it. And at that point, the essential oils had been so effective that I knew this was the path I needed to be on. And they were working for me better than anything else I'd ever used. So I was really intrigued and interested in the science and the why, the how to use these things. And I realized there was so much that I didn't know. So I didn't know what I didn't know. So I was open to seeing all this new stuff and just checking it out and trying it out for myself. So I tried out this group session and I was late for it. I didn't even have all the oils. I just sniffed the bottles that I had, and some were empty, but there was still some of the molecules in there. And I missed the first part of setting the intention, yet it was so powerful. So I thought, okay, if this is so powerful and just, with coming into it late and these different factors, then what would an actual session be like? And that was really impressive for me. And I immediately had an emotional experience with it. And I was just blown away. I'm like, okay, now my curiosity is definitely piqued and I have to know more about this. So I kept following that same practitioner in the same group. And sure enough, a few months later, right before the holidays, she offered another one. And it was at that point when I did that session and I grabbed my husband and made him do one with me just to experience it for himself. It was then that I knew this is something that could really help me. So at that point, that was in the summer of 2017 and December of 2017. And I had just gotten no contact with some narcissist family members, and that's with a capital N, the big ones, not just those with the personality traits, but the full-blown narcissist personality disorders and some very toxic people. And it was a really hard time for me. And I wasn't prepared for it. I didn't have a whole lot of support. I knew I needed help. I knew I needed something to help me through that. And nothing else was working. I had already gone through traditional methods all growing up and nothing ever worked. So I was even on multiple different prescription medications for anxiety, bipolar disorder. I was on an antipsychotic, antidepressant, anti-anxiety, all those things combined, and none of those ever worked. I had struggled with suicidal thoughts and attempts at different points when I was growing up. And I had severe panic attacks, agoraphobia, which, if you don't know what that is, that's basically being afraid to leave your house and being afraid to have any communication with people whatsoever. It was a full-blown, running a marathon just to have a phone conversation with someone, or even to type an email or a text message. It was the complete extreme, you know. So there were so many different things that I had dealt with and I noticed some parts I felt like I could take and heal as much as I could go, but it wasn't the full thing. So I was really stuck and there was nothing else that was helping me. And then the oils. So that was my first little taste of it. And then using Aroma Freedom Technique, which combines essential oils with a 12-step process. And it was in that that everything started changing for me. So I started following Dr. Perkus and the actual Aroma Freedom Academy and Technique. I joined everything I could that was free, and I just kept following along and paying attention to everything. And there was a practitioner's sign up so I could become a practitioner. And at that point, I had no interest whatsoever in actually being a practitioner to serve others. I just knew this was what I desperately needed. This was the answer to my problems. And I knew I had been praying for it for so long. And I am a follower of Christ. I have a deep faith and a deep relationship with God. And so I saw in scripture too that God will always give us a way out. He's always helped remove the bondage and the slavery. And I was really questioning that, like, okay, why isn't this going away? You know, I have faith. I know the scriptures, I know the stories, I know the relationship I have with God. Yet why is this not happening? So then AFT came and I took the practitioner's course, and within a few weeks, it hit me like it was so strong, because in that course to become a practitioner, you have to do it on yourself. You have to help heal yourself first, you know, putting on that oxygen mask first. So that's what I did. I had all these things. I was testing on myself, going through the group sessions, and I was just blown away by how powerful it was. And some of these things were getting released and connected, that having these realizations that I never knew were there. And it was what I had been seeking this, like, for years, for decades, really, you know, and I was blown away, blown away. So then learning the science behind it, and, you know, I didn't even need the science, but actually having the scientific, like, understanding of the deeper level of why Aroma Freedom Technique is so powerful, why it works, you know, with memory consolidation and helping to dissolve the memory complex. It was so what I needed, because I had started having CPTSD from the different abuse and things, and it was affecting me as a wife. I'm married to my best friend, and I have beautiful children. It was affecting me being a mom. It was affecting me being a friend. And it was all that junk, all those negative voices, all the lies that were told to me throughout my whole life that had just stacked and stacked up in there. And it became my identity. When I looked in the mirror, when I thought about myself, those lies and how I was treated became who I was. So I was stuck. Nothing else worked except AFT. And that's not an exaggeration. So there were some levels of realization, revelation, and healing that I was able to get to before AFT, absolutely. But it still wasn't good. I still wasn't able to fully function. And with all the different things coming on after leaving the toxic people, when that healing starts to occur, that's actually when the most damage happens. Because if you get a cut, you know that it can kind of get, like, ugly before it gets better. And that's what was happening inside of me. This is what happens for most people. So I really needed something to help me during that time. I had already had experiences and refused to do pharmaceutical drugs ever again, because of how it affected me, and it didn't help at all. It just made things worse. So, you know, I'm looking at all these alternatives, and AFT was it. You know, that's the short part of that story. AFT was it for me. And it cleared things out that I never thought could. Literally, when you feel like, you know, roots, and you know, there's things that you feel are so rooted in you, they couldn't possibly go away. They're, like, grown in you. AFT helps dissolve that because of the process, because of the essential oils. And it was effective at helping to clear out the negative voices from all of those people in my life, and from myself, from our spiritual enemy. And I was able to transform into my true self, into the person I knew was inside there but couldn't get out because of all this junk on top of it. So it helped me to fulfill my life's purpose, to help others on their journey, on their healing journey. But I had to get healed first. And I had no idea this is what would come out of it, but it enabled me to see what I couldn't see in myself. It allowed me to connect with truth when all I'd been fed was lies my whole life. And I cannot tell you, no amount of me talking here is going to convey to you what it actually feels like to be free from all that stuff. I'm not going to cry, so it's all good. I'm not super emotional like that. But if you can imagine something you've been struggling with your whole life, just gone. And some things went really quickly for me. Other things I needed more and more and more sessions because there's a lot of layers to it. But it was amazing. I went from struggling to function and be normal and having to really work for everything, and not get exhausted to have social interactions with people, to being able to function, to actually stand in front of people and teach, to be able to come alongside people who are in a worse place than I was or about the same, and come along and hold their hand and say, hey, come on with me. I couldn't do that before. And I had this big heart that wanted to help people, and I couldn't do it. But Aroma Freedom Technique helped me to do this, helped me to release all the burdens and learn tools every single day that when I start feeling overwhelmed, when I start feeling stressed, when I start feeling like I want to go back and retreat like a turtle, for safety, when things in this world get overwhelming and overpowering, and I start to feel all those pricklings of fear or anxiety, every single aspect of my life now, I have this amazing tool of Aroma Freedom Technique that I can use on myself and now on my family. So it's incredible. It's absolutely amazing. And I do just want to share before I wrap this up that it shifted to how I was using it originally. That was, well, as I'm making this video, it's now the end of 2020. And I've had a good amount of time with AFT in my life. So the first part, I was using it to clear all that junk and gunk away and get all the roots pulled up. All the big core issues got tackled and taken care of. So now I'm just using it as basic maintenance. So it's to help me have balance, clarity of mind, dealing with any emotions that pop up in the day-to-day life so that I can properly release them, learn the lessons, and it helps me to do the things that I need to do. Helps me to step up to the plate and do even more to help serve the world around me. And those things that I would normally brush off, like saying I wouldn't be able to do it, now I can do it. And it's amazing. So I am using this mainly right now for focus and to fight fear, insecurity, and procrastination so that I can move closer to my goals and help more people. So there's always that thing when I want to step out that there's those little nigglings of the old me there, but I can do a quick session and it clears it away and reminds me of who I am and what I can do in this world. So now more than ever before, I think we can all agree on this, the world needs to know about this technique. And that's why I'm coming out and sharing this with as many people who will listen. Everyone needs to know that there is a possibility, that there's hope, that there's something else out there that maybe if nothing else has been working, they've tried everything else, there is something that can really help. And now, for the most part, I've never heard anyone have a bad experience with Aroma Freedom Technique. Everyone gets helped in some capacity, in some way, through a session. So that's my story. Sorry for how long it turned out to be, but you can see why it's so transformational. And if you're hesitant about having a session, just check out some of the group sessions or recorded sessions that were done, or contact me and I'll get you started on something small and go from there, because people need you and you need to take this time out for yourself and try it. Put that oxygen mask on yourself. You will not regret it.